Part 5. After Rebirth, Boss, she is beautiful and sassy. Author, Beautiful. Chapter 41. Chapter 41, Finalizing Cooperation. The score of 10 points was like an insurmountable mountain on the hearts of all the next contestants. Sure enough, several contestants made frequent mistakes, and the judges shook their heads secretly. The game passed little by little, and there was no suspense. The highest score in the end was the Yunsu team. The second place was Zhangqiao, number 7, which was also expected by everyone. No one present is the best in various fields, but they can still only sigh with admiration. Some people are really different from them. Lin Dai almost screamed. Sure enough, it was great to follow the boss and win. Lan Qi also showed his rare emotions. After the results came out, there was an award ceremony immediately. Professor Wang personally came to the stage and announced, "I announce that the first prize winner of the 5th National Science and Technology Creation Competition is the 14th group of contestants. Please invite them to the stage." The three people from Yunsu and Su came to the stage, and Professor Wang continued, "The person who presented the award to them was Meng Huai, Professor Meng, a famous physicist in my country and an academician of the Chinese Academy of Sciences." Who is Meng Huai? Who here doesn't know? A well-known physicist in China and even the world, who is almost the benchmark and flag in the minds of all scientific researchers, can actually invite Professor Meng Huai to present the award. The applause from the audience almost lifted the roof. Under the gaze of everyone, an old man slowly walked out from the side of the stage. His temples were already gray, but his temperament was as calm as the sea, as if he could tolerate all things, and everyone couldn't help but become quiet. He walked up to Yunsu with a kind smile, unable to hide the admiration in his eyes. "Classmate Yun, we meet again, you can really surprise people." Throughout the game, he had been watching in the dark. The moment he saw Yunsu, he was a little surprised. This girl had left a deep impression on her in walking before, and he had also left her contact information, but it was a pity. Never received an email from her. Lin Dai can hardly control his expression. How can he be able to let Professor Meng Huaimeng award him an award one day? He can brag about this for the rest of his life. Everyone looked at Yunsu in horror. Is her work so important that she needs to sign a confidentiality agreement? At the same time, everyone also understands that there is official intervention behind this seemingly unofficial game, otherwise this agreement would not have been delivered to everyone so quickly. Everyone took it and looked at it in confusion, and their eyes widened instantly. Confidentiality agreement. Meng Huai handed the trophy to them with a hopeful look. "Congratulations, keep working hard, the future is yours." "Thanks." Original intention, Yunsu showed no stage fright. Is it for the sake of strengthening the country? After the award ceremony, which should have ended, Professor Wang called everyone present and asked them to distribute a few pieces of paper. As Yunsu's speech progressed, his expression gradually became solemn. He understood better than anyone else how terrible this girl's idea was. As long as it was used for military purposes, it would be a very powerful fighting force. Yunsu also remembered who the old man was. "Hello. Miss Yun, can I take up a moment of your time later? Our boss wants to talk to you about cooperation." Sulin came to Yunsu and whispered. Scientific researchers are all familiar with confidentiality agreements. They signed them skillfully and left. As the sponsor, Junhee Group also had representatives. After Sulin came on the stage, he awarded the prizes to Yunsu and several others. Yunsu finally showed a sincere smile. Yunsu followed people into the conference hall. Sitting there was not only Meng Huai, but also a middle-aged man with a solemn face and a cold temperament. Behind him stood a young man with an upright posture. Yunsu looked at him without leaving a trace. At one glance, Yunsu instantly understood that this was a unique temperament. He glanced at the man next to him. I finally understood why I invited him to watch this game. The official mainstream media who were invited to the scene frantically pressed the shutter button, and the scene of a handover between an old man and a young man was frozen. Professor Wang on the side stared wide-eyed. Did Professor Meng know this little girl before? Yunsu and the others were also preparing to leave, but Sulin was still waiting for her. Meng Huai sent someone to deliver a message to her, inviting her to the conference hall for a chat. What a loud tone, this answer is not arrogant. Yunsu was surprised and had to let Lin Dai and Lan Qi go first. Sulin said in a good temper that they could change the time to the next day, and Yunsu agreed. Yunsu sat down without changing his expression. The three of them sat in a triangle. Professor Meng was the first to speak. Classmate Yun, I didn't ask you to come. I wanted to hear your original intention for this competition. Okay, are you so impatient? The middle-aged man looked at her like an eagle, and Yunsu looked at her with clear eyes that could see the bottom at a glance. He is a good boy with a pure mind. Ning Ziwen praised in his heart. He exchanged a look with Meng Huai. Meng Huai nodded, and Ning Ziwen spoke. Hello, classmate Yun, I am Ning Ziwen, director of the office of the Beijing Research Institute, and I want to talk to you about your design of the drone. Yunsu had already guessed their purpose. Okay, what do you want to know? I want to know if your drones can be mass-produced for military use. Ning Ziwen's style was straight to the point. Okay, Yunsu answered simply. Ning Ziwen was overjoyed. Then I formally propose cooperation to you on behalf of the Beijing Research Institute. I hope you can design a new drone with good manufacturing performance. You can also apply for a patent, but it cannot be announced to the outside world. We will compensate you. There are certain fees and rewards, and you can also put forward any requirements you have. He knew that this cooperation was unfair to Yunsu. If she put her technology into commercial use, she would definitely make a lot of money. Ning Ziwen was afraid that Yunsu would refuse. Unexpectedly, Yunsu agreed without thinking, I can cooperate with you. This was my original idea. How could Yunsu miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity? Cooperating with the institute is equivalent to finding a huge protective umbrella for herself. Anyone who wants to touch her must weigh it first. The reason she was designing the new drone was to attract official people, but she didn't expect them to come so quickly. She agreed so quickly that Ning Ziwen was a little surprised. Then do you have any requirements? Yunsu thought for a while. I am still studying in Lanjing, so it is unlikely that I will come to Beijing often. If possible, I hope to work there. Also, I hope that no one can interfere with my design. Of course, you can check. She has absolute self-confidence and does not want irrelevant people to jump out and point fingers. Ning Ziwen agreed, yes, the work will be carried out with you as the center, and we will fully cooperate with you. Yunsu nodded with satisfaction. Meng Huai watched the two of them settle such a big matter in just a few words, and said to Yunsu with a smile, Classmate Yunsu, are you currently in the first year of high school? I think with your level, there is no need to read this article seriously. 3 years, are you interested in being my student? Ning Ziwen was shocked. Did Meng Lao mean to accept Yunsu as his student? He hasn't accepted a disciple for many years. Who among Mr. Meng's students is a master? He admits that Yunsu is very good, but it's not as good as this, right? He didn't know what Meng Huai was thinking. Meng Huai was almost certain that Yunsu's talent was just the tip of the iceberg. She still had many surprises. Yunsu's brilliance was so bright that he was tempted to accept a disciple. Thank you, Professor Meng, for your kindness. I have not considered this yet. Yunsu declined. Would anyone still refuse Meng Huai's invitation to become a disciple? Ning Ziwen looked at Yunsu like a monster. Meng Huai was stunned and laughed 3 times. Instead of being angry, he liked the child even more. He was frank, which suited him well. Okay, then I'll wait for you to think about it again. Yunsu smiled. She had a very good impression of Meng Huai. After everything was settled, Yunsu declined Ning Ziwen's offer to send someone off and returned to the hotel. As soon as I turned on my phone, I saw the message from Qin Xiao, "Congratulations on winning the competition." He was well informed, and Yunsu replied with a thank you. Qin Xiao was still busy. His phone vibrated. When he saw Yunsu's message, he thought about it and asked, "Do you have time later? Do you want to go skiing?" Zhou Ye has been clamoring to go skiing. As a child from the south, Yunsu was immediately excited. Go. As if feeling Yunsu's impatience, Qin Jiao smiled, and his tired mood was swept away. Lanchinge, during dinner, many families watch the evening news. Yan Yu was teaching his daughter to watch less TV and eat more vegetables when he heard the host on the TV saying in a tactful voice, "Today, the National Science and Technology Creation Competition held in the capital came to a successful conclusion. The contestants in this competition were about 400 people are experts and scholars from various fields. The competition is highly professional and fierce. Here, I would like to warmly congratulate Yunsu students from Class 14, Grade 1, Number 1 Middle School in our city, and their teammates Lin Dai and Lan Qi from Huaqing University. In this competition, I won the first prize and received a bonus of 1 million yuan sponsored by Junya Group. Professor Meng Huai, a famous physicist in my country and an academician of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, presented the award. Let us appreciate the champion together." Yan Yu stopped chewing and asked her husband doubtfully, "Did I hear it wrong? I seem to hear the names of the students in our class." The husband turned his head and glanced at the TV. "Yunsu, grade 14, aren't you the only one in the class?" "Pa," the chopsticks in his hand fell to the ground. Yan Yu looked at the girl who was shining brightly on the TV, and his heart was like a thunder drum. The camera panned to the competition seats. Many of them were professors and scholars whose names Yan Yu could recognize. Among these people, Yunsu won first place. Or full marks. She fell into a mysterious silence, remembering what Yunsu said when he asked her for leave a few days ago. He was going to the capital to participate in a small competition. What is this called a small competition? Seeing the photo of Meng Huai and Yunsu, she took a deep breath and felt successful. Her student had been awarded an award by Meng Huai. She is the teacher of the student who was awarded the award by Meng Huai. Lao Li also saw the news. He jumped up excitedly at home. "I knew that this kid is a person who does great things," in a low voice. End of this chapter. After Rebirth, boss, she is beautiful and sassy. Author, beautiful. Chapter 42. Chapter 42, The Holographic Era. Hey, isn't that girl Yun? She won the prize. The Lian family had just finished dinner. Lian Yu and Lian Zila rarely had time to watch TV with the old lady. Lian Yu was absent-minded, but the old lady suddenly pointed at the TV and said, with an excited tone, "What? Sister Yun?" Lian Yu looked seriously, and his face gradually became numb with shock. He was not surprised that Yunsu had really done anything now. No wonder Sister Yun had taken leave these 2 days, because she was going to participate in the competition. Lian Zila sighed, "This girl is really not simple, she is the center of attention wherever she goes." Yunsu had no idea how much shock she had caused, so she called her dad, briefly told him about the competition, and told him to go back in 2 days. On the second day, Yunsu had already made an appointment with Sulin. She casually wore a shirt and jeans and went to Junya Group. Junya Group is a company that covers the diversified development of real estate, hotels, new energy, high-tech industries, and other industries. It is definitely an unshakable behemoth and a well-deserved business empire. As she expected, the reason why Junya Group sponsored the National Science and Technology Creation Competition was to find projects that could lead to win-win cooperation. Yunsu's new drones allowed them to see business opportunities, but Yunsu's purpose was not that. Located in the CBD in the center of Beijing, Junhee Group stands tall. The tall buildings reach into the sky, and Yunsu walks into the building. "Hello, do you have an appointment?" The lady at the front desk was wearing professional attire and had a smile on her face. Even the arc of her smile was perfect. "My name is Yunsu, and I have made an appointment with Sulin." "Thanks." "Okay." "It's okay, I've only been sitting for a while." The man who was working at his desk raised his head. His gold-rimmed glasses gave him a literati temperament, like a university professor. Only his eyes revealed the unique shrewdness of a businessman. "Miss Yun, you're here. You've been waiting for a long time." Sulin came very quickly. "Just a glass of water." "Okay, wait a moment, I will contact Assistant Su immediately and ask you to take a rest over there." "Do you need anything to drink?" The tone of the receptionist lady suddenly became enthusiastic, and it was no longer a formulaic question and answer. Sulin is the project department director and special assistant to the president of Junyu. He plays a very important role in Junyu. Early this morning, Sulin gave them many instructions. If someone named Yunsu came to Junyu to find him, he would definitely come to Junyu. Show your best service attitude and enthusiasm, and notify him as soon as possible. Yunsu nodded, and Sulin opened the door. Sulin was stunned. He didn't expect that Yunsu and his boss knew each other, but he still tried so hard to connect them, for fear of missing this opportunity. "It's me, long time no see. I haven't congratulated you on winning the competition," Bai Yuanzhou said in a familiar tone. Unexpectedly, the person Suti was waiting for was such a young girl. The receptionist was surprised, but the smile on his face did not change. "Boss, Miss Yun is here." "Didn't you expect that the president of the huge Junyu group would be him?" This was indeed a bit beyond Yunsu's expectation. No wonder Qin Jiao was so well informed yesterday, but she would feel more at ease if she cooperated with him. Yunsu was stunned. "Is it you?" "Bai Yuanzhou. This is our president's office. He will mainly talk to you today. Please come this way." Sulin walked to lead the way for Yunsu. The receptionist's eyes widened. Assistant Su actually took this girl to the president's elevator. "Who is this girl?" The front desk called Sulin. Sulin, who was in a meeting, got up and left in a hurry after receiving the call, leaving everyone in the conference room looking at each other. But understanding is acquaintance, and cooperation still needs to be discussed. The three of them sat down on the sofa, and the secretary came in and brought tea. "Yunsu, to be honest, I was at the game yesterday, so you must know what I want to say from this moment on." The two of them were in a negotiating relationship. "Tell me what you think first." Yunsu did not speak rashly. "Obviously, we want to transform the new drone you designed and put it into commercial use. There is a huge market for this. We want to hire you as the chief designer. You can also become a technical shareholder. I believe this is a win-win cooperation." Sulin's tone was confident. He believed that Yunsu would agree, because only they, Junyu, had the strength to eat this market cake in one go. Bai Yuanzhou didn't speak. This was something he and Sulin had already discussed. Even if he knew Yunsu, it would still be the same. Who knows? Yunsu shook his head after hearing their thoughts. "If it were before, I might have agreed, but to be honest now, I have already cooperated with the military on this technology, so." Bai Yuanzhou's pupils shrank. He couldn't understand the meaning of Yunsu's words. He was a child of the Red family, so he naturally knew how things that cooperated with the military could be commercialized. Sulin is not a fool. They both know that this project has failed, and the two of them are a little disappointed. Yunsu looked at their expressions and smiled slightly. "Don't worry, listen to me first. Without this project, we have other cooperation to discuss." Bai Yuanzhou and Sulin looked at each other. Other cooperation? What does it mean? They are waiting for Yunsu's next step. Yunsu doesn't give in. There is a saying that goes well, women and children make the best money, which refers to luxury clothing. What else is there, what has a huge audience? Game, Sulin blurted out. Bingo, Yunsu snapped his fingers, what I want to do is play games. Games are the fastest way to make money, and once completed, they are an evergreen tree that can make money. Yunsu's purpose has always been to make games, and drones are just a practice game and bait for participating in competitions. Bai Yuanzhou frowned, but the current game market is either dominated by the overlords who have already occupied the market or the insurgents who can't climb up. You want to make a game? Why do you want to break out of the siege? Bai Yuanzhou asked sharply, but Yunsu was not afraid at all. He already had the answer and was waiting for him to ask. What I want to do is a holographic game. Yunsu said one word after another, and said a groundbreaking sentence. Pot, Sulin's hand shook, the teacup fell to the ground, and the hot tea was poured into his hand. However, he seemed to be completely unaware and shouted out loud, "What did you say?" Bai Yuanzhou also had a glum expression and was in disbelief. I said, I want this world to enter the holographic era. Yunsu smiled slightly, but his beautiful face and eyebrows exuded extreme madness. What do you mean? Do you have a plan or have you already resulted? Bai Yuanzhou forced himself to calm down and asked Yunsu. His throat was dry when he mentioned the word results. I already have complete technology. Yunsu gave him an affirmative answer. Bai Yuanzhou closed his eyes. He even heard his own violent heartbeat clearly. He did not doubt the authenticity of Yunsu's words, not only because he believed in him, but also because he believed in Fifth Brother. He called Fifth Brother last night and asked him about his opinion on cooperating with Yunsu. Qin Jiao only said one sentence, telling him to trust Yunsu completely and just do it boldly. Sulin was completely dumbfounded. He had no idea that things would turn out like this. Isn't there a buffer when jumping from a drone to a holographic game? This is the difference between heaven and earth. Drones can be said to be upgraded based on previous ones, but holographic games can open up a new era. But now, the pioneer is standing in front of them, and they are lucky enough to be her companions. How can this make their blood boil with excitement? After calming down, Bai Yuanzhou said to Yunsu, I am honored, and you are honored that you chose us. These 4 words, holographic era, can make anyone crazy. In this cooperation, it is Yunsu who holds the initiative, not Junyu. Then, please cooperate. Yunsu stretched out his hand with a smile as bright as a flower. Bai Yuanzhou shook hands with him solemnly, happy cooperation. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After Rebirth, Boss, she is beautiful and sassy. Author, beautiful. Chapter 43. Chapter 43, Skiing Trip. Although the intention to cooperate has been confirmed, launching a holographic game cannot be done in a short time and must be considered in the long term. Bai Yuanzhou said to Yunsu, we at Junyu have not yet been involved in the game sector. Now that we have decided to make games, we can set up a game company here. This subsidiary will be funded by us. You will hold 35% of the shares, and you will also own 35% of the shares. Full responsibility. What do you think? 35? Sulin couldn't help but be speechless. Bai Yuanzhou has given what he thinks is the best condition and is waiting for Yunsu's answer. Yunsu shook her head, no, I can contribute, but I want to hold 55% of the shares. She likes to have absolute say. The development cost of games is very high, let alone holographic games. Bai Yuanzhou did not ask Yunsu where he came up with so much money. He didn't think for long before agreeing to Yunsu's request. Good. After all, the initiative is not in their hands, and Yunsu University can choose to cooperate with any other company. Because I am still in school, I hope that the company can be opened in Lanchinge, and the focus can be shifted to the capital later. Saying this, Yunsu also had a headache. Yes, Bai and Zhou agreed immediately, and everyone else agreed, let alone such a trivial matter. He told Sulin, follow Miss Yun to Lanchinge and assist her with all your strength. Yes, Bai and Zhou replied. Zhou Ye seemed particularly excited and kept chattering all the way. Qin Jiao and Bai and Zhou were both busy people, so they took the time to have the ski trip. The time was almost up and Yunsu was about to say goodbye. After she left, Bai and Zhou thought about it and called Qin Jiao. You know what, it turns out that she never thought about making a drone project from the beginning to the end. What she really wanted to cooperate with was making games. There were many people going to Nanshan to ski at this time. It was almost noon when Yunsu and the others arrived. They went to the hotel to check in first. Looking for a place to eat again, the winter bamboo shoots in the season are extremely delicious. Yunsu drank a few more mouthfuls of soup and felt that his whole body was warming up. Susu, can you ski? Zhou Ye asked. A few people finalized some preliminary matters in a few words. After the official business was finished, the atmosphere became relaxed again. Fifth brother, I've finished talking to Miss Yun. No one knows that the real person in charge of Junya Group is actually the heir to the Qin family in Siju City, and Bai and Zhou also works for him. One of them is in front of the scene, and the other is behind the scenes. Qin Jiao only controls the general direction, and the rest Bai and Zhou has the right to handle matters by himself. Holographic game. Bai Yuanzhou's voice trembled a little when he said these 4 words. Game. Qin Jiao stopped what he was doing. Qin Jiao drove to pick up Yunsu himself, along with Zhou Ye and Bai and Zhou. The 4 of them drove to their destination, Nanshan Ski Resort. I can only say that she is an absolute genius. Bai and Zhou still thinks about it as if he is in a dream. The other side fell into silence. Fifth brother, Bai and Zhou was confused. It was also he who asked Bai and Zhou not to tell Yunsu the news for the time being. He was afraid that Yunsu would have concerns because of this relationship. The matter was almost resolved, and Yunsu also felt relieved. Qin Jiao sent a message at the right time, and the 2 of them finally had time for the skiing they had agreed to do. I'm here. Now that we've reached an agreement, I will fully support her. Qin Jiao took a while before speaking. Yes, Sulin was entrusted with the important task, and his fighting spirit was high for a while. How is it? Qin Jiao said casually. I know a little bit, Yunsu said. She grew up in Lanchinge, a southern city where it rarely snowed. During the interstellar period, she owned a small planet where it snowed all year round. Unfortunately, she was too busy. There was no time to go, and the level of skiing was only at the point where I could stand firm without falling. After resting for a while, the group of people couldn't wait to go to the ski resort. They changed clothes first. Qin Jiao put on casual and warm clothes. Yunsu looked at him in surprise. You look like a man in his 20s, a promising college student. Qin Jiao. Is he really that old? He was only 6 or 7 years older than Yunsu, but he seemed to be 30 or 40 years old in her mouth. Zhou Ye laughed loudly on the side. Susu, you don't know, fifth brother was so cool when he was young. I once suspected that he had facial paralysis. Qin Jiao looked at him dangerously, receiving the look of death. Zhou Ye shut up immediately. Begin to warm up. Before going on the snow slopes, you must do warm-up exercises and move your ankles, wrists, knees, and other joints to avoid injuries caused by stiffness. After warming up, they began to put on their ski equipment. Except for Yunsu, the 3 of them were all skiing masters. Zhou Ye rushed out impatiently, leaving only his voice behind. Let's see who reaches the finish line first. You're cheating again. Bai and Zhou nodded to Qin Jiao and Yunsu, and immediately followed them out. Yunsu was fully dressed and stood on the skis carefully. Qin Jiao looked around and said, Let's go to that ski trail. He chose a ski trail with a relatively gentle slope, which was more friendly to beginners. He looked at Yunsu and said, keep the skis parallel, as wide as your shoulders, with even pressure on both feet. Squat down slightly, lean your upper body slightly forward and relax naturally. Look ahead and follow this fall line. Glide in the right direction, don't be afraid, I'm right next to you. After Yunsu listened, he carefully implemented the precautions mentioned by Qin Xiao. He moved the snow pole in his hand a little forward, put his body weight forward, pushed his hands hard, and slid forward, slowly getting faster and faster. The cold wind blew in her face, and she felt extremely relaxed. She looked back at Qin Xiao with a wanton smile. I slipped out, Yunsu said happily. Slow down a little. Qin Xiao followed her, always paying attention to her safety. Seeing her smile, she couldn't help but smile too. After skating a few times, Yunsu was eager to challenge a more difficult snow trail. Qin Xiao didn't agree but didn't want to spoil her fun, so he had to follow her closely to protect her safety. Sliding down from above, the speed became faster and faster, the wind howled. A few people played at the ski resort all afternoon. Yunsu's skiing skills improved by leaps and bounds, and he even learned a few more difficult moves. No more playing, no more playing. The two of them sat aside, waiting for Zhou Ye and Bai Yuanzhou to come back. The two of them had been competing for the whole afternoon, but they were very tired. Let's go and eat barbecue. These delicious and fun things are always available in Zhui. In addition to skiing, this resort also specializes in barbecue. The thickly cut beef was roasted until it was sizzling with oil, and sprinkled with cumin, chili pepper, and secret seasoning. The aroma was so fragrant that Yunsu couldn't help but swallow. Seeing Yunsu's greedy look, Qin Xiao smiled in his eyes and handed the grilled meat skewers to her. Eat it. Yunsu took it and took a quick taste. It was fresh and tender in the mouth. Her eyes lit up. I didn't expect you to have such skills. How could a man like Qin Xiao, who was born as the proud son of the emperor, know how to cook? Yunsu felt incredible. I have been in the army for a long time, and survival in the wild is a basic skill. No wonder. I want to eat too, Zhou Ye shouted from the side. If you don't have long hands, bake it yourself. Qin Xiao's words were ruthless. Zhou Ye felt aggrieved and was stuffed with a mouthful of meat by Bai Yuanzhou. Eat yours. They chatted and laughed, and finished their meal quickly. Bai Yuanzhou had some things to deal with and went back to the hotel. Zhou Ye didn't know where he had just hooked up with the beautiful woman, and she disappeared. There were chairs prepared for campers in the snow. Yunsu and Qin Xiao sat down. Yunsu looked up and saw that the sky was filled with stars and rivers, and it was vast. You can actually see so many stars here. Yunsu exclaimed, with childlike excitement in her eyes. Even though the time and space are different, she may be looking at the same starry sky. Is there any star that is the planet she once lived in? Qin Xiao couldn't understand the look in her eyes. Besides being happy, why was she feeling nostalgic? He didn't ask, just quietly enjoying the beautiful scenery of the snowy night together. End of this chapter. After Rebirth, boss, she is beautiful and sassy. Author, beautiful. Chapter 44. Chapter 44, A Long Journey. After staying in the capital for a few days, after returning from skiing in Nanshan, it was time for Yunsu to go back. Before leaving, she went to Ling's house again. Ling's mother reluctantly held her hand. If Ling Yu hadn't stopped her, she even wanted to recognize Yunsu as her goddaughter, not only because she had saved Linju's life, but also because she really liked the child. Long before, they heard from Ling Feng that Ayu's doctor was a young girl, and the Ling family was worried. They secretly investigated Yunsu, and after knowing her life experience, they felt even more distressed. Her own parents didn't want such a good child. How blind. This time, in addition to Ling Yu, I went with him. There was one more person, Sulin from the Junya group. He followed Yunsu to Lanchinj with his right-hand man and a group of people, and he was confidently preparing to start a new business. After returning to Lanchinj, Yunsu went to school to ask teacher Yan Yu to cancel her leave. Yan Yu stared at her for 2 minutes, and Yunsu also stared at her without any guilt. Is this the little competition you're talking about? Yan Yu took out the photo of Yunsu and Meng Huai, which seemed to have been taken from TV. Yunsu blinked innocently. Yes, it's not a difficult competition. No difficulty? Yan Yu was choked. If the group of experts and scholars participating in the competition heard it, they would probably die of shame and anger. Yunsu, tell the teacher clearly what you want to participate in next time. I'm old and I really can't bear to be scared by you again, Yan Yu said earnestly. Yunsu nodded obediently. Okay, teacher. Go down, Yan Yu waved his hand. He was such a good kid, why did he look so upset? Lao Li didn't say anything, he just gave her a thumbs up. Awesome. The classmates who had a better relationship with Yunsu also echoed, yes, that's right. The students in the math class and class 14 also knew that she went to the capital without saying a word to cause such a big thing, and even came back with a trophy. They said that I am still my sister Yun. Come on, sit down and eat together. Yunsu is treating her today, so don't be polite to her. Yao Shuij quickly called her to join them. They also knew each other because of Yunsu's relationship. Yao Shuij rushed forward. Susu, you are finally back. I miss you so much. What's up? After a lively meal, the relaxing moment of gathering with classmates passed. Yunsu returned home. Yoon Daejin was still awake, sitting in the living room waiting for her. She knew Yoon Daejin's concerns, and she never wanted to drag her down, so it would be better to let him do something. You haven't come back so late. Dad is worried about you and wants to discuss something with you, Yoon Daejin said in a low voice as Yunting fell asleep. A few people sat at a big table, and they all wanted spicy food. They asked for a red pot, with large pieces of butter and chili and peppercorns added to the pot. They boiled it until it boiled. The aroma of the hot red soup was overflowing, and several people washed it. Eat meat, eat and drink, and enjoy yourself. After she returned home after walking for a few days, she found that there were many more items in the house, and there was a breath of life. Under the bright lights, Yunsu's heart softened. Okay, let's eat, Yunsu agreed quickly, treating it as making up for a birthday. Yao Shuiji had been talking about this all the time. Lian Yu followed suit. Sister Yun, the bonus is 1 million, why don't you treat me to a meal to celebrate? King Yu was working part-time here recently. When he saw Yunsu, he was surprised and said, are you back? Dad, why aren't you asleep yet? Yunsu walked over and sat down. Called Li Yan and Shen Jinzu, who were in the mathematics competition class, and together with Lian Yu, Qin Fang, Yao Shuij and several classmates in the class, they headed towards the hot pot restaurant outside the school. Yoon Daejin hesitated for a while, then sorted out his words. Susu, since you have decided to live in Lanchinj now, Dad knows that you are rich, but it is not a problem to just sit around and spend the afternoon like this. What Dad wants to do is to rent a store and do something. What do you think of the food? Dad, go check out the store and buy it. If it suits you, take this card, it has money in it. Yoon Daejin quickly put the card back. No need to buy, just rent. Dad still has some savings, which is enough. Yunsu listened carefully to Yoon Daejin's words. Okay, Dad, your craftsmanship is so good, the business of opening a store will be booming, I support you. The store was not busy now. Qingyu glanced at the proprietress. The proprietress was also very kind and nodded for her to go play. I don't know why, maybe it's because of the changes in Yunsu. Yoon Daejin now treats Yunsu more and more as an adult, and wants to discuss everything with her. Well, Dad, tell me if you need anything. Yunsu didn't insist. Yoon Daejin had a smile on his face. Yoon Daejin is preparing to open a store, and the cooperation between Yunsu and Junyu has also been put on the agenda. Sulin recently inspected sites in Lanchinj and quickly determined the location of the company, which is not far from number 1 middle school and Yunsu's home. Far away, it is convenient for Yunsu to travel back and forth. In the previously discussed share ratio, Yunsu's side accounted for 55%. Based on the capital subscription and technology shareholding, her side needs at least 300 million. The money she has on hand now is in addition to the medical fees given by Linju and the money she has received on the hacker forum. The rewards for accepting several tasks, all added up, are only 50 million, which is still far from 300 million. Yunsu had already planned how to get the money in a short time. She asked Sulin to wait for her for a week. Due to his age, Yunsu could only open a stock account online using the identity of Yoon Daejin, and Yoon Daejin didn't ask any questions. After opening the account, Yunsu invested all her funds in the stocks she had been optimistic about in advance. Yunsu remembers very clearly that it was at this time in his previous life that the stock market in Korea would fluctuate and gradually spread to China. The stock market that had been soaring before suddenly collapsed, and many people suffered heavy losses. Yunsu wanted to seize this opportunity. Make a fortune. Sulin's company establishment has begun to take shape. In addition to the team he brought before, he has also recruited many people. Each candidate has been confirmed by Yunsu, and Yunsu is confident that he can do it. Speaking of talent recruitment, Yunsu thought of a candidate, and she called Lan Chi, who was far away in the capital. After the game, there was less contact between the two. Yunsu shared the prize money of 400,000 yuan from the previous game, and he and Lin Dai each had 300,000 yuan. Knowing that Yunsu could win the championship, neither of them had any objections. I also feel a little bit guilty about having extra money. Lan Chi was a little surprised when he received her call. Hello? Yunsu. Lan Chi, I remember you are a senior, right? Yes, what's wrong? So have you been busy with anything recently? If not, I have a project here that I would like to invite you to join. Project. The competition is over, what else can be done? Isn't Yunsu still in high school? Lan Chi was stunned. What project? I'm currently working on my graduation thesis, so I may not have enough time. Lan Chi thought for a while and said. Yunsu was a little regretful. Junya Group and I have established a game company, and are we going to do game research and development? Game development? I haven't been involved in it, I'm afraid. Lan Chi said tactfully. Holographic game. Yunsu typed out 4 words directly. Lan Chi's cell phone fell to the ground with a bang, and he was silent for a long time. What did you say? Yunsu continued to seduce him. We are going to make a holographic game and would like to invite you to join us and witness the coming of an era. How about it? Are you interested? Lan Chi stood in the laboratory, with people coming and going around him, but he felt that the surroundings were silent. He only heard his own voice, and replied softly, okay. What graduation thesis should be put aside under the words holographic game? Lan Chi is a man of action. He quickly handled the school affairs and rushed to Lanchinj without stopping. Sulin almost broke out in laughter after receiving such a talent. In the following days, Yunsu went to and from school normally, and went to the company to brainstorm with Sulin and others. She was quietly waiting for an opportunity to come. A few days later, the stock market in Korea fluctuated, and a chain reaction started in China. The stock market was booming, and the rising trend made the eyes of investors red. Countless people rushed to go there. Invest money in the stock market. Even Sulin and others invested most of their wealth. Just when the situation was looking good, Yunsu suddenly withdrew and threw out all the stocks in his hands. Sulin looked at her incomprehensibly. Believe me, throw it out quickly, Yunsu gave him advice. After struggling for a long time, Sulin sold his holdings. Anyway, he had already made so much, so it would be okay to make less. He comforted himself this way. No one expected that on the next day, after the stock market opened, the entire market turned green and fell to the limit. Countless funds evaporated in the stock market without even a sound being heard. Sulin almost knelt down in front of Yunsu, feeling frightened for a while, and from then on he obeyed Yunsu's words. 50 million went in, and 500 million came out, a full tenfold increase. Yunsu played the game very well with his empty hands. The 300 million investment is here. A week later, a game company called Yunchinj was quietly established. No one knows what huge waves this company will make in the future. The journey is thousands of miles, soaring upwards. End of this chapter. After Rebirth, boss, she is beautiful and sassy. Author, beautiful. Chapter 45. Chapter 45, Interstellar Game. Because Yunsu is still a minor, Yunchinj's legal person is named Bai Yuanzhou, but the actual person in power is still Yunsu. Lan Qi had not been in Lanchinj for 2 days. After learning that he was working on a project with Yunsu, Bai Ye clamored to join. Considering that Bai Ye's level was pretty good, Yunsu also let him join Yunchinj. After the team is built, everything begins to be planned and acted out in an orderly manner. The first thing to determine is, what type and theme of the game does Yunchinj want to launch as the first shot? In Yunsu's view, this is something more difficult than holographic technology. The talents recruited by Sulin are all very imaginative. Someone suggested, since the things we make are beyond the times, our games must also be boldly imaginative. I think the interstellar mecha theme is very good. Before anyone else could express their opinions, Yunsu's eyes lit up. Yes, no one knows what the interstellar age is like better than her. So wouldn't it be easy to make a game about the future world? However, it is extremely difficult to excel in a game with this kind of theme. It is not easy to create a sense of technology and the future. I am afraid that it will be self-defeating. Sulin expressed his concerns. Everyone was hesitant, and Yunsu spoke, since you have to do something, you must do your best. This is indeed the most appropriate theme. Then do this. As soon as Yunsu said it, everyone responded. If someone had told them a week ago that they would obey the instructions of a teenage girl who was still in high school, they would have laughed out loud. However, after experiencing Yunsu crushing them in all directions, they have long since admired them. 5 Body Cast. After entering the company and everyone signed a confidentiality agreement, they found out what this newly established company was going to do, a holographic game. No one could help but be crazy about these 4 words, even if they were not impressed by Yunsu's abilities. Junyu, the man behind Yunchinj, is also a company that everyone wants to join. They are not worried at all about not being able to show their talents here. They are just afraid that they are not working hard enough and will be left behind. In addition to Lao Li, Yunsu also often lectures on questions for everyone, and even before the game, he personally issued a test paper to set the questions. Boya Middle School, which is also a key high school in Lanchinj, also arrived. Although Wen Ziwan narrowly defeated Li Yan this time, he unexpectedly lost to Yunsu. The perfect score was like a natural chasm, and he was convinced. For Yunsu, who has experienced interstellar war, she has witnessed the cruelty of war with her own eyes, and she has more real emotions than other people's rhetoric. Just after everything was on track, the rematch of the English competition came, and then the provincial competition of the mathematics competition came in the next few days. Yunsu didn't have much chance to breathe, and it kept spinning every day. No one likes war in the world. We can often hear the peace-loving declaration by politicians of many countries. However, war has ever stopped our planet since the start of human history. Yunsu stood on the stage and spoke in a gentle and heavy tone. The weight of history came to his face, and everyone present was moved. Of infection. He walked up to greet Yunsu. We meet again. Looking at Yunsu's confused eyes, he was speechless. Could this lady not remember who he was at all? After deciding on the theme of the game, it was time to worry about the game setting, graphics, storyline, character settings, and career settings. Yunsu gave a lot of opinions based on his previous experience of living in the interstellar era, and everyone was enlightened. A lot of inspired settings come from this. There are only a dozen people in the mathematics competition class now. The provincial competition is coming soon. If you get the first place in the province, you will have a chance to be recommended, and there will be extra points for the second place. No one wants to lose the chain. The air in the classroom is almost solid, and only the strokes of the pen the paper was scratched dull. On the day of departure, a dozen classmates got on the bus and rushed to their battlefield. Since you have to do something, you must do your best. This is Yunsu's consistent purpose of doing things. The semi-finals are still held in Lanchinge. In addition to the written test, a speech component is also added. The written test and speech scores account for 46%. Yangcheng Experimental Middle School is the provincial test site for this year's mathematics competition. The top mathematics students in the province gather here. The number 1 middle school is a key middle school and has a good reputation, so it is naturally the focus of many people's attention. The rematch of the English competition has arrived as scheduled. I think Yunsu only participated for the 300,000 prize money. However, in just 1 or 2 months, earth-shaking changes have taken place. Now she has even invested 300 million. The provincial competition was held in a neighboring city, Yangcheng. The school asked Lao Li to lead the team and also asked a life teacher to follow and take care of it. Even so, Yunsu did not dare to say too much. She knew deeply that 1 step ahead of the times is a talent, 10 steps ahead is a genius, and 100 steps ahead is an alien. Lu Yi, who used to scream in front of her, now takes a detour when he sees her. When someone is a little stronger than you, you may be jealous, but when she is so strong that you can't surpass her, your heart just, I will look up silently. The written test was completed quickly, and the speech was held on the second day. The theme of the speech was determined by drawing lots on the spot. The theme that Yunsu drew was war and peace. It was easy to speak but not easy to speak well. There is no doubt that the speech won the applause of the whole house. Yunsu got the highest score in the audience and successfully entered the finals. The final date is half a month later. So people should have their own career. Yoon Daejin now has a goal in his heart, and his whole face looks radiant. Yunsu is also happy in her heart. In her previous life, Yoon Daejin was depressed because of her, which was the last thing she could not forgive herself for. Bo Yat and Wen Ziwan, the one sitting behind you in the preliminary round. Yoon Daejin felt sorry for his daughter and tried his best to make delicious food for her every day. He also liked his shop, which was nearby. He rented it for a year and hired decoration workers to build it in the past 2 days. It was a simple shop. It doesn't need to be too elaborate, just make it bright and hygienic. Oh, he was the one who said harsh words to her before the exam, Yunsu suddenly realized. Although you are a very strong opponent, I will continue to work hard and be careful of the day I lose. If you lose, you still have to say harsh words. Then come on. With these words again, Wen Ziwan felt as if he had been punched into cotton. Your opponent is me. If you want to fight against her, I'm still far away. Li Yan looked at his old rival. The two of them used to be sympathetic rivals, but it's a pity that Yunsu is such a pervert, and both of them were beaten. Crushed into dregs. Just know it in your heart and say it out loud. Wen Ziwan gritted his teeth. Almost all the students participating in the provincial competition have arrived. They will take the exam tomorrow, and today they all went to the exam room. It's really strange that there are so many girls in this class, a sinister voice said. That is, what kind of math competition do girls participate in, and what kind of math do they know? Someone echoed. Yunsu frowned. What nonsense did he say? Shenjinzu took a look at the school uniform of Linzhou Foreign Languages and said, Linzhou Foreign Languages School is also a strong team. The one who just spoke is called Chu Hai. He was on the provincial team last year and won the second place in the national level. Naturally, he is arrogant. But this year, he. She smiled contemptuously. This group of people, in front of Yunsu, was not enough. What do you mean? You mean us girls don't deserve to participate in math competitions, a small girl said angrily. She was wearing the uniform of Lanchinj Yukai Middle School. It was rare for Yukai to enter the provincial competition. She was originally excited. Anyone who is destroyed will be angry. Hey, I didn't mention you by name, but you couldn't wait to take the seat. What? I said it wrong? Girls, their grades in elementary and junior high schools may be better than boys, but how can they compare with mathematical thinking and logic? Chu Hai laughed wildly. For a time, the faces of the girls present were filled with anger. How dare you ask for your score in the preliminary round? How dare you bark here? Shenjinzu couldn't bear it and jumped out. Chu Hai looked her up and down. His angry look was quite cute. His attitude was a little better and he said proudly, I'm not talented. I only got 112 points. What about you? 112 points? Many girls lowered their heads, they were indeed quite tall. I scored 105 points, how about it? Shenjinzu's momentum is not lost at all. Chu Hai sneered and was about to mock him back. I'm not talented, but I have 112 points, it's Li Yan. When Ziwan glanced at him, found an opportunity to fight back, and immediately said, not talented, only 1 point more than someone else, 113 points. Li Yan looked at him speechlessly, childish. Are there any high scores this year? Yunsu smiled slightly and started to compare sentences together to show off, I'm not talented, I got full marks in the exam. Perfect score. Is this the perfect guy from Lanchinj? Everyone exclaimed in a low voice, she is so good looking, God is so partial, her beauty and IQ are all given to one person. Chu Hai looked at her instantly, his eyes sharp and hostile, are you Yunsu? Yes, it seems that you have heard of me, so you still have the nerve to say that girls are inferior to boys. It's just a moment of carelessness. What's there to show off? Wait and see how I crush you this time. Chu Hai was young after all, and was provoked by Yunsu and said harsh words. What I'm waiting for is the sentence, okay, what if your grades are still lower than mine? Chu Hai frowned, if I were lower than you, I would apologize for what I said before, but you don't have this chance. No, Yunsu shook his head and looked around, I want you to apologize to every girl present. Looking at his hesitation, Yunsu said again, what, you don't dare? Who wouldn't dare? Chu Hai agreed immediately, what about you, you also have to apologize to us boys. Okay, Yunsu did not hesitate. A showdown between boys and girls begins. It's good to be young and full of vitality. Not far away, teachers from various schools were chatting. Lao Li sighed with Mr. Wang from Boya. Who says it's not? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After Rebirth, boss, she is beautiful and sassy. Author, beautiful. Chapter 46. Chapter 46, another perfect score. After seeing the examination room, Lao Li took the students who were worrying him to the hotel they had booked. He asked everyone to put away their things, take a short break, and go out to eat together to relax before the exam and relieve everyone's nervousness. Mood. We are all students, and we are not picky about food. For the sake of Lao Li's wallet, we randomly chose a Chinese restaurant and ate happily. Since we were still underage, everyone drank. Two boys wanted to drink some beer, but Lao Li looked at them and suppressed them. Let's strive to perform at our best tomorrow and leave no regrets. Lao Li raised his glass and said. Everyone stood up and clinked glasses together, come on. After clinking glasses, everyone did not sit down. They exchanged glances with each other and turned to face Yunsu. Thank you, Sister Yun, for teaching us carefully. Thank you, Sister Yun, for giving us the title. Sister Yun, keep going, I respect you. Yunsu was caught off guard and quickly clinked glasses with a smile on his lips. Let's work hard together and respect everyone. After Chu Hai finished answering the fill-in-the-blank questions, he inadvertently looked up at Yunsu in front of him. What he didn't know was that Yunsu had already completed the test paper beautifully. However, the provincial competition did not allow her to submit the paper in advance, so she could only pass the time in boredom. After finishing the exam and handing in the paper, Yunsu and Li Yan walked out of the examination room. Li Yan asked her, how was it? Are you sure? He asked about how sure she was of getting a perfect score. Okay. Yunsu is a kid who is good at everything, but she lacks a competitive spirit and is too Buddhist. Someone must push her from time to time. Without your help, the math competition class would never be what it is now. I'm very satisfied with this year's results. The next step is up to them, Lao Li said with emotion. Yunsu stretched and almost fell asleep. It's not bad, he couldn't say too much. What is this person so weird about? Inexplicably, Yunsu and Li Yan tacitly ignored him. Yunsu couldn't laugh or cry, are you coming too? Then I'll wait. Lao Li turned his head and smiled slyly. Yunsu was turning his pen in boredom, and Chu Hai sneered in his heart. He dared to ask him to apologize so brazenly, what a dream. The invigilator began to distribute the test papers. The scoring system for the provincial competition papers was the same as that for the national finals. It was divided into the first test and the second test. The first test in the morning lasted 1 hour and 20 minutes. There were 8 fill-in-the-blank questions and 3 answering the questions will give you a full score of 120 points. When he saw Yunsu, he immediately raised his neck and snorted heavily, but Yunsu didn't even look at him. He couldn't help but get angry and was about to have an attack. The invigilator came in, and Chu Hai had to sit down in frustration. Early in the morning of the second day, everyone packed up their things and set out in high spirits. Yunsu and Li Yan were in the same examination room. Coincidentally, Chu Hai, who made a bet with Yunsu yesterday, was also in the examination room. Yunsu took the test paper and started to answer the questions as usual. Her calculation speed was faster than that of a computer. While everyone was still struggling to fill in the blanks, she had already solved the questions. The 3 answers were 16 points and 20 points. Points, 20 points. It can be seen from the score that the last 2 questions are the most difficult, but these questions are very simple in front of Yunsu. Soon, she has solved all the questions, and even wrote 2 more solutions. Chu Hai followed them and laughed out loud when he heard this. It's really a show, I admire you, I admire you. What are you satisfied with? Just wait and see, we will go further, Yunsu said firmly. I have some doubts about the last question, I'm not sure, I'll ask you later. Chu Hai was instantly confident and felt that he had a chance to win, so he immediately continued to solve the following questions. After she sat down, Lao Li next to her silently picked up the cup and winked at her. Thank you, Sister Yun. Chu Hai looked at the backs of the 2 of them and showed a confident smile. After lunch, everyone went back to the hotel to rest. The hotel is not far away. There is an exam in the afternoon to refresh ourselves. The second test is much more difficult than the first test. There are only 4 answer questions in the 2 hours and 50 minutes of the test. The difficulty of the questions can be imagined, involving plane geometry, algebra, number theory, and combination. The first 2 questions each 40 points, and the last 2 questions are worth 50 points each, for a total of 180 points. The atmosphere in the examination room became more and more anxious as time passed. Candidates kept raising their hands to ask for draft paper, scratching their heads and counting page after page. Li Yan's face was tense, and it was obviously a bit difficult. After finally completing a question, he saw when he went to the next question, his eyes suddenly widened with surprise. Then he looked in the direction of Yunsu, showed a smile, and continued to answer the next question. Cold sweat broke out on Chu Hai's head, and he waved his pen and calculated again and again on the draft paper. Damn it, how could the difficulty be so high this year? Then he thought that if he found it so difficult, it would be even more difficult for other people. Thinking of this, he finally calmed down a little. After the exam, Yunsu and Li Yan were waiting for other students outside. Shen Jinzu ran out and threw himself on Yunsu. Ah, Susu, I love you so much, you actually hit the mark, you're great, woo woo woo. Sister Yun is awesome. Other students were also excited. God knows, when they saw that there was a question on the test paper that was almost exactly the same as the question paper that Yunsu had given them before, with only slight differences in numerical values, they were so excited that they almost fainted. That's a full 20-point question. With these 20 points, their overall performance will be greatly improved. As soon as Lao Li heard about this, he wanted to go back and offer 3 sticks of incense to Yunsu. Yunsu said that this was not necessary. After the exam, the organizing committee will organize teachers to mark the papers urgently. The results will be released the next day, and provincial first and second provincial titles will be awarded, as well as the list of candidates for the provincial team. Everyone is ready to relax and have fun in Yangcheng. Yunsu followed Shen Jinzu out for shopping and didn't return to the hotel until late at night. Yunsu didn't buy anything. Shen Jinzu was carrying large and small bags and gesticulating enthusiastically in the room. Yunsu was already paralyzed on the bed. Really, Yunsu never knew that shopping was such a tiring thing. It was more tiring than boxing for a day. On the second day, the results of the provincial competition were announced directly at the examination center. Shen Jinzu nervously held Yunsu's hand all the way, and other students also murmured words to pray for the blessings of various gods and Buddhas. When we arrived at the examination center, a large circle of people gathered around the announced place. Lao Li took the lead and squeezed in. Teachers from other schools also scrambled to get in. On the contrary, the candidates were unable to squeeze in from the outside. When Yunsu saw this, he stayed where he was. Lao Li had already squeezed in anyway, and Li Yan didn't move either. He was lazy. Chu Hai saw his results and exited with satisfaction. He was so conceited that he didn't even look at the results of Yunsu and others. He just wanted to slap Yunsu and others in the face immediately. 275, how's my score, what do you want to compare with me? His proud smile was full of sarcasm. What's the rush? It hasn't been announced yet. Yunsu calmed down. Then I'll wait for you to struggle again. The result will be the same anyway. Chu Hai was not in a hurry. Wen Ziwan from Boya didn't know when he stood beside them. How is it? Better than you anyway. Li Yan glanced at him sideways. You. Wen Ziwan, 279, great job, Teacher Wang shouted excitedly. When Wen Ziwan heard this, he immediately looked at Li Yan proudly. Chu Hai's face turned pale. How could that happen? Is Wen Ziwan taller than him? There must be a mistake. Li Yan, 282, Lao Li, not to be outdone, shouted. Wen Ziwan instantly withered. Finally, Lao Li saw Yunsu's name at the top of the list. The next second, his eyes widened and became dull. He wiped his eyes and saw that he was right. Lao Li looked up to the sky and laughed 3 times, shouting with the loudest voice in his life, "Yunsu, 300 points. Full score. What the hell? Another perfect score. It's Yunsu from Lanchinj number 1 middle school again. Sister Yun is awesome. My sister Yun is still my sister Yun. Who else, I'll ask who else? What kind of perversion is this? Being able to get full marks on questions of this difficulty, Wen Ziwan completely stopped thinking about comparing with Yunsu. Impossible, absolutely impossible. Chu Hai pushed through the crowd and found Yunsu's name, clearly printed in black and white, 300 points. He couldn't help but not believe it. The teachers present all shook their heads. How can this compare? This girl's strength is really terrifying. Under her light, everyone else is just a foil. She keeps creating miracles. The competition organizing committee quickly announced the list of provinces 1, 2, and 3. Province 3 is actually a consolation prize, and the main thing is Province 1 and 2. Lao Li was almost crazy with joy. Because Yunsu won a question, his score in the first grade was much higher than expected. 7 of the 15 people were provincial first, and the rest were provincial second. Yunsu undoubtedly entered the provincial team, along with Li Yan, Shenjinzu, Wen Ziai, Chu Hai, and Du Dai from Yangchen number 1 middle school, a gentle and shy boy. A total of 6 people enter the provincial team. Half a month later, they will go to Beijing to participate in the winter camp, which is the finals of the National Olympic Mathematics competition. This is another new journey. After the dust settled, Yunsu looked at Chu Hai. Have you forgotten what you said? I know, you don't need to remind me. Chu Hai gritted his teeth, made up his mind, walked towards every girl present who had been laughed at by him, and bowed deeply. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that girls are not as good at math as boys. Really sorry. Yunsu was a little surprised. He didn't expect that this person was willing to admit defeat. Yunsu had a better impression of him. This trip to Yangcheng was a success. End of this chapter. After Rebirth, boss, she is beautiful and sassy. Author, beautiful. Chapter 47. Chapter 47 Official Opening. After returning from Lanchinj with good results, Lao Li walked with wind. Director Li, the grade director, was also very happy. He was lucky to have left Yunsu in the first place. Otherwise, he would be the one who was envious and jealous of them now. He was in the first grade on Monday. At the flag-raising ceremony, the glorious achievements of several competitive classes were praised. Every time Yunsu received an honor, Zhong Xian's heart ached. Her heart began to bleed when she thought of letting such an outstanding student go with her own hands. Yunsu, who had been busy all the time, finally had time to rest. In addition to Linju, he still had to go there every 2 days. Ling's mother was not worried about Linju. Not long after they returned to Lanchinj, she took a long leave and came. Lancheng takes care of him specially, making various nourishing soups, which are different every day. Linju's legs can be seen to the naked eye to be regaining their vitality day by day. The originally shrunken calves have gradually gained some flesh, and the whole person's complexion is much better. After the needle is inserted later, you can try to sit up and stand on the bed. Yunsu kept moving his hands, and the golden needle penetrated deeply into Linju's leg. The needle swayed and seemed to make a slight sound. Ling's mother watched from the side, her fingers clenching unconsciously. Every time she saw this scene, it hurt like a needle pricking her own body, and she wished she could bear it for him. Okay, Yunsu slowly pulled out the golden needle and said to Ling, now, try to move your legs slowly. Linju nodded, gritted his teeth, and used all his strength to move one leg. The sweat on his head showed how difficult it was. He panted and put the other leg on the edge of the bed. Mama Ling watched nervously, her heart tightening. This is Yunsu looked at him in surprise. He put his hands on the edge of the bed, his feet touched the ground, exerted strength on his upper body, tightened his thighs, and stood up slowly. Linja turned the wheelchair and walked to an easel covered with white cloth. He gently pulled off the white cloth to reveal the true face underneath. A belated birthday gift, the painting I promised you. I'm sorry for waiting for so long. I hope you like it. Ling Yu's eyes were as gentle as water, with a bit of nervousness. Yunsu was very pleased, very good. From now on, I will try to stand once every day and gradually increase the standing time. Don't rush, lest you go too far and the gain outweighs the loss. Ayu, Ling's mother screamed and rushed over to help him up. Linja breathed a sigh of relief quietly. He always painted casually. This was the first time he painted a proposition composition given by Yunsu. He was really afraid that Yunsu wouldn't like it. Ling's mother covered her mouth, tears welling up in her eyes. This painting has bright colors, appropriate shades, bold and flying brush strokes, and is extremely imaginative. Yunsu really likes it? That's good. Ling Yu, let's go to the studio. I'll show you something. In the picture, the sky is high and far away, with countless big stars and small stars floating on it. The lines of nebulae are long and short, circling and tangled, as if you can see the passage of time. The golden full moon hangs on it, overlooking the human world, this starry sky. Not so quiet and serene, like a carnival among the stars, sun, and moon. Linja pressed the remote control, and the thick curtain slowly closed, blocking out the light outside, and the studio became dark. The light source in the darkness actually came from the canvas, and the stars on it came to life. He actually used fluorescent paint to paint it. The sky was filled with stars and rivers pouring in front of her. When Yunsu was in it, she had a sense of fragmentation of time and space. Very good, I like it very much. Yunsu stared at the painting in front of her. Ling's mother went to see her soup. Yunsu followed him to the second floor in confusion. The corner room on the second floor was the studio where Ling Yu spent the longest time every day. The lighting in the studio was very good, with large tracts of sunlight coming in, and the window curtains fluttered in the wind. Yunsu took the painting home and hung it in the room. When the lights are turned off at night, it feels like traveling in another world. Thank you. Yunsu's eyes moved. The next second, Linja's legs weakened, he became unstable and fell to the ground. Hold your hands, apply force slowly, don't be anxious. Yunsu's words soothed his anxious heart like magic. Yoon Daejin has been going out early and coming back late every day recently. The decoration of the hotel is in the final stage. Yunsu saw him looking through the almanac last night, trying to find an auspicious day to open the restaurant. Well, okay, I've been waiting for so long, it's not less than this time and a half. Dad, how's it going? Seeing Yoon Daejin coming back, Yunsu hurriedly walked over and asked. It's almost done. Just do some cleaning tomorrow. Yoon Daejin's eyes were tired, but his whole person was full of joy. Where is the small pavilion? I just finished washing and went to bed. Yunsu replied. That's good. Ever since Yunsu and they reunited after being separated for so long, Yunting has become extremely clingy. As long as Yunsu is at home, he will follow him wherever he goes. Yunsu also knows that Yunting will not be able to adapt to his new school after transferring to another school. Lanchange is a strange environment and he feels very insecure, so Yunsu has been trying his best to go home as early as possible recently to stay with him. Help Dad take a look at these dishes. Yoon Daejin took out a piece of paper and wrote on it the dishes he had tried repeatedly recently, and wanted Yunsu to help make an idea. Yunsu took a closer look and found that they were all her father's specialty dishes. Yoon Daejin had learned cooking skills from him for several years in his early years. It was said that his master's ancestor was a royal chef in the palace. Yunsu had always admired her father's cooking skills. Not bad, pretty good. Okay, Then I'll print the menu tomorrow. Yoon Daejin put the paper away. By the way, there's one more thing. Susu, you are good at handwriting. You can write a sign for dad, but I haven't thought of a name yet. Yoon Daejin almost tore through the dictionary and hadn't made up his mind yet. Yoonsu thought for a while, how about calling it Yash? Yoonsu has always liked Mr. Liang Shikyu's book. Yash talks about eating, and he can appreciate the various flavors of life in one drink and one peck. Yash, Yoon Daejin touched the two words carefully. He was not very educated, but he could feel the charm between his lips and teeth when he chewed the two words carefully. Okay, let's call it Yash, Yoon Daejin decided, then find time to write to dad tomorrow. It's about to open, and the signboard hasn't been made yet. Okay, I promise to complete the task. Yoonsu agreed. Soon, a wooden plaque with two large Chinese characters Yashi engraved with flying phoenixes was hung at the entrance of the hotel. It was rough and elegant, but also a little unrestrained and uninhibited, instantly attracting passers-by. "Boss, what kind of store are you opening? It looks really good," asked a passerby. Yoon Daejin immediately gave him a menu. "It's a restaurant. It will open the day after tomorrow. You can come over and try the taste. I guarantee you will be satisfied. There are discounts for the opening." Yoon Daejin tried his best to sell it, pointed at the plaque, and changed the topic. "Did you see this word? My daughter wrote it, how about it?" Yoon Daejin is actually an invisible showman. It's really good, even passers-by and laymen can say it well. I will definitely come to support you when I have time. Okay, thank you. Within 2 days, it was the auspicious day chosen by Yoon Daejin. The opening day happened to be the weekend. Yoonsu was helping in the store and was speechless looking at the flower baskets delivered one after another. This was too exaggerated. Linju, Sulin, Baye, Lanchi, as well as Lianyu, Lianzila, Qin Cheng, Yao Shuij, Li Yan, etc. ordered flower baskets. Even Qin Xiao, who was far away in the capital, had flower baskets sent over. Obviously, it's just that the opening of a small store was like a shopping mall opening. If Yoonsu hadn't stopped it, they would have even wanted to hold a ribbon-cutting ceremony. "Isn't this a small restaurant opening? It's such a huge event." The shops nearby were shocked. "It tastes pretty good, let's go and try it." When passers-by walked in, Yoonsu quickly stepped forward to greet him with great enthusiasm. If Sulin and others saw it, their jaws would probably drop. Does the boss still have such a passionate side? There is no other way. The boss has given him the instructions, and Yoonsu dare not disobey. "Have a bowl of beef noodles." Okay. Yoonsu immediately went to the kitchen to place an order, and soon a steaming bowl of beef noodles was brought to the diners. The rich soup is filled with snow-white noodles, the big lump of beef is attractive in color, and it is embellished with green onions. It is very appetizing at first sight. The guest couldn't wait to pick up his chopsticks, pick up a piece of noodles and put it into his mouth. His eyes suddenly lit up. The noodles were chewy. Then he ate a piece of beef. The beef had been marinated in advance. After one bite, the entrance was soft and chewy, fragrant but not woody. Finally, take a sip of the soup. The soup is delicious and leaves a fragrance on your lips and teeth. "It's delicious," the diners couldn't help but praise. Yoonsu and his daughter looked at each other and opened the business successfully. Yash store is officially opened. End of this chapter. After Rebirth, boss, she is beautiful and sassy. Author, beautiful. Chapter 48. Chapter 48 is getting more popular day by day. "Oh, can you pack up quickly, I'm late and there's nothing left." When it was time to leave school, a young and beautiful girl urged and complained. Immediately, I will definitely have something to eat today." Another girl was busy packing her things. "I have already told you to go to Yash today, but you haven't packed up earlier." "Oh, okay, My bad, I'll be fine soon. The girl zipped up her school bag and the two of them rushed out of the classroom together. The small shop Yash opened on Nanway Street has only been open for a week, and it has taken the hearts of diners in the surrounding area by storm. It was not a bustling area at first, but this shop became crowded with people. Yash doesn't have any fancy decorations or bluffing publicity stunts. It conquers everyone's taste buds just by its taste. The owner of this shop sells braised food and some special stir-fry dishes. He goes to the market every morning to select the freshest ingredients, including duck head and duck. Put a large pot of pork belly, fat intestines, pig's trotters, etc. into a big pot, clean it, add the secret brine, and simmer over high heat for several hours. Once the brine pot is opened, the street will be filled with fragrant fragrance, which will attract greedy people. This shop is also very unique. It only sells one pot every day, and there is no more. It is first come, first served. Therefore, before noon every day, there is a long queue outside the store, eagerly staring at the mouthful of braised pork pot. There are so many people, is it our turn yet? The two girls who were running all the way, panting and standing at the end of the line, said worriedly. Let's wait in line first. If you don't have braised food, you can eat other food. Let me tell you, the fried rice I ordered last time was super delicious. In addition to the delicious food at Yash, there is another reason why students from number 1 middle school are attracted to patronize it. They come to admire the academic demeanor. Sometimes you can see Lian Yu and Qin Cheng helping in the store. Okay, Dad, you can relax this way. Although Yunsu didn't complain, she did have too many things to do, so it would be better to hire someone. Okay, I wonder if Yunshen is here today, but Yunshen is so happy. He is good looking, has good grades, and has a father who is so good at cooking delicious food, the girl said with envy. Yoon Daejin moved quickly, took out a piece of fat sausage, waited first, then flashed the knife, chopped the sausage into fine pieces, put it into the box, and finally poured the soup on it. Yoon-soo on the side quickly took it and beat it quickly. After packaging and handing it to the guests, the father and daughter cooperated tacitly and completed it in one go. Boss, here are 2 tails of fat intestines, cut into small pieces, and pour some soup on it. After finally waiting for the customer, he said, the braised rice with braised soup after eating the braised food is a must-have. I don't know how long it took, but finally there were 2 girls in line. Fortunately, there were still some in the pot. They excitedly high-fived each other. Hello Yunshen, another girl greeted Yoon-soo cautiously. Yoon Daejin was busy working in the shop non-stop. He turned on a small fire and a large pot of marinated meat was simmering in the pot. The color was bright and the alluring fragrance lingered on the tip of his nose. Yoon Daejin glanced at them and saw that they were from the same school as Susu. He added a few more chicken feet and pig's trotters. This can't go on like this. It will delay your studies too much. Dad will hire someone tomorrow and I won't need your help. Yoon Daejin was busy telling Yoon-soo that he had never thought that business has been so good recently. Soo rushed to the store to help as soon as school was over, and Yoon Daejin couldn't bear the child being so busy. Uncle, we want a duck neck, 2 duck heads, and 20 yuan for chicken feet, thank you, the girl said quickly. Okay, right away. Both girls are students from number 1 middle school. Yash is not far from number 1 middle school. Since the business of this store has been booming, many students from number 1 middle school have come to patronize it. Naturally, they discovered Yoon-soo, who often helps in the store. Are you also from number 1 middle school? Uncle will give you more decorations for free. Thank you, Uncle, the 2 girls replied happily. Yunshin, come on for the game, the girl cheered Yoon-soo. Teachers and students in the school are basically aware of Yoon-soo's trends. Teachers in each class make their ears tingle with calluses. Look at Yoon-soo from class 14, she has the highest score in the English competition. Look at Yoon-soo, She got perfect marks in the provincial mathematics competition. What is this? This is the difference in the world, you still don't know how to work hard. There are countless words like this. Thank you, girls are really cute creatures, Yunsu said in a gentle tone. Today, the big pot of braised meat was sold out quickly, and the father and daughter finally had time to take a rest. Xiao Yan, let's go to that restaurant to eat. I heard it tastes very good not far away, a girl pointed to the Yash store and said. Yunyan looked at the shop with people coming and going, with complicated emotions flashing in her eyes. Yunsu had left the Yun family for almost a month, but she seemed to have been living in Yunsu's shadow. Everyone in the school was talking about her. What kind of competition did they compete in? What kind of prizes did they win? When she took home her achievements in school, Yuntu and Suzayuling didn't praise her as much as before. They just said to keep working hard. Is it because they have a better daughter? Even her brother has become alienated from her. Even though it was her parents who proposed it, she pretends that there is no such thing as Yunsu as a daughter. Why does this happen? Withdrawing her thoughts, she shook her head expressionlessly. No, I don't really like going to this kind of small shop. Who knows if those things are clean, so forget it. The scene of the father and daughter being affectionate and harmonious was extremely dazzling in her eyes. Why could she still live so happily? Then, okay then, let's switch to another house. For some reason, the girl felt that Yunyan's expression at this moment was a bit scary. Yunyan returned home and Suzayuling was watching TV in the living room. When he saw her coming in, he glanced at her casually and asked, "Back? Life seems to be as peaceful as water." Yunyan walked over to Suzayuling and sat down next to her. She pretended to be casual and said, "Mom, my classmate took me to a restaurant for dinner today." "Who do you think owns it?" "Who is it?" Suzayuling asked casually. "It's Yunsu and her dad." Yunyan carefully observed Suzayuling's reaction, and saw her hand pressing the remote control. Pause for a moment, her expression unchanged, and said, "Just tell me what they do. What kind of store can they open?" "I'm surprised to be able to live in Lanchinge. I opened a shop that sells braised food and the like. It seems to taste pretty good. Many students from our school go there to eat." Suzayuling frowned. "Yun Daejin drives it? What about Yunsu? She also helps in the store. She doesn't study anymore? What's the point of spinning around the stove? This Yun Daejin really doesn't know how to take care of children. Besides, braised food, how delicious is that store?" Suzayuling's expression was filled with disgust. Hearing Suzayuling's words, Yunyan's heart tightened. She knew that her mother was not indifferent after hearing the news about Yunsu. Why? Why can't Yunsu disappear from her life? Yunyan returned to the room, thought again and again, took out her mobile phone, and made a call. "Hey, brother Tian, I have something to ask you, that is." Her voice is soft and sweet, like coaxing Snow White to eat a poisoned apple, with a hint of poison in the gentleness. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After Rebirth, boss, she is beautiful and sassy. Author, beautiful. Chapter 49. Chapter 49. Someone is making trouble. After finally resting for a few days, the finals of the English competition are coming soon. Fortunately, this time the finals will be held in Lanchinge, so there is no need to travel around. There is only a speech session in this final. The topic of the speech has been determined at the end of the semi-finals. It is to talk about your knowledge and understanding of a subject. Admittedly, it is easier to talk about literature and history for this kind of theme, such as music, painting, history, etc., is itself highly emotional. Yunsu took a different approach and chose to talk about the beauty of mathematics. In terms of understanding of mathematics, few people can match her. She wanted to elevate this theme to another level. The finals will be held at the Lanchinge Cultural Center and are allowed to be watched. News media will also report on them. The organizers will give tickets to the finalists. Yoon-soo gave the ticket to Yoon Daejin. Yoon Daejin had been looking for workers in the store for the past 2 days. Yoon-soo suddenly found a candidate. She said to Yoon Daejin, "Dad, I have a classmate whose family conditions are not good. Mom is also sick and she often works outside. Can we let her come to help her?" She was talking about Ching-yu. If she worked in her father's shop, she would be able to take care of him. Of course, you can talk to her. If you can, come directly to the store. Dad will never treat her badly, Yoon Daejin agreed. When he thought about a child about the same age as Susu working outside all day, he felt a little bit feeling distressed. "Thank you, Dad, remember to come and watch my game on Friday." Yoon-soo hugged Yoon Daejin's arm and acted coquettishly. Yoon Daejin enjoyed his daughter's rare dependence and felt extremely proud. Okay, Dad must go. His daughter is so outstanding, and he must go to witness her glorious moment. On the morning of the second day, Yoon-soo went to the senior year of high school to meet Ching-yu. The two of them walked to the corner of the stairs. "I see you haven't worked at the hot pot restaurant outside the school recently." After school was over at noon, Yoon-soo took Ching-yu to Yash. Her father was busy in the store without touching the floor. This matter was settled in this way, and Ching-yu and Yoon Daejin got along very well. "Something's happened, please come over here." Not bad, the movements are very neat, and you can see the work in your eyes." Yoon Daejin was very satisfied. "Okay, I'll definitely go." Friday is the final of the English competition. Yoon-soo went to the cultural center early in the morning. There were many people coming to watch today, so he needed to leave the stage beforehand. Yoon Daejin was going to come over after the day's braised food was sold out. Ching-yu slightly lowered his head and pursed his lips. "It's okay to help in Uncle's shop, but you don't need to pay me a salary. You've helped me enough." "Good. That's it. Now my dad's shop is in urgent need of a helper. I want to ask you to help. The salary will be based on the market price. What do you think?" Yoon-soo didn't want her to feel burdened. "You can't refuse to go to my house for dinner that weekend." Ching-yu's mother always wanted to thank Yoon-soo in person. "Business in the store is not good, so I don't need to work part-time anymore." When the game got underway on the 17th, Yoon Daejin hadn't arrived yet. Yoon-soo called Yoon Daejin, but no one answered. Yoon-soo frowned. "Just think of it as helping me, and we'll talk about the rest later." "Okay then, I'll go there after school at noon." Ching-yu couldn't bear to brush off Yoon-soo's kindness and agreed. Yoon-soo checked the card she gave Ching-yu and found that it had almost never been touched except to pay her mother's medical expenses. She knew that Ching-yu was afraid of owing more. "Susu, why are you here?" Ching-yu was a little surprised. Yoon-soo's appearance number was number 18, and she was ranked relatively low among the 20 people. She already knew the speech script by heart, so she hid in the background and played with her mobile phone. "Dad, how about the helper I found for you?" Yoon-soo asked. "If you don't pay me, will your work be in vain? We will return each code to one code. We lent it to you before and you have to pay it back." When Ching saw the situation, he immediately stepped forward and took the plate from Yoon Daejin's hand, brought it to the guests' table, and then quickly cleared the table after the guests had finished eating. The host on the stage was already reading her name. It was her turn. As the highest scorer in the semi-finals, Yoon-soo was the contestant that the judges paid the most attention to. The host left the stage, but no one came up to the stage for a long time, and there was a lot of discussion on the spot. Yoon-soo looked ugly and had an ominous premonition in his heart. When he called Yoon Daejin again, his phone was turned off. Wrong. Yoon-soo immediately walked out. The host outside had already gone up and called her name again, but she couldn't control it anymore. The phone rang and Yunsu picked it up. Xiaosu, where are you? Someone just made trouble in your store. I saw something was wrong and called the police. The police came and took your father and the little girl with them. Went to the police station, your dad asked me to tell you. It was the call from the fruit seller next door to Yash, with a panicked tone in her tone. Yunsu looked ugly, but still said calmly, okay, thank you, Aunt Wang. Hang up the phone, Yunsu walked out and called Sulin, asking him to hire a lawyer as quickly as possible. Sulin heard the anger in Yunsu's tone and immediately agreed to do it. As soon as he walked out of the museum, he met Lian Yu and Qin Cheng who were coming towards him. Sister Yun, where are you going? Aren't you going to compete? Is it over already? Lian Yu looked at Qin Cheng, are we late? The two of them rushed over after class. Qin Cheng saw that Yunsu looked wrong. What's wrong? My dad had an accident and is at the police station. Then get in the car quickly. Qin Cheng knew the seriousness of the matter and quickly called Yunsu to get in the car. He and Lian Yu came on bicycles. The two got into the car, the roar of the motorcycle sounded, and they drove away. Lian Yu stayed there alone and called through gritted teeth, Uncle, something happened to the Yunsu family. Send someone to the police station over at Nanwei Street. Lian Zilla dialed the internal number, and the secretary walked in. He gave a few instructions, and the secretary nodded repeatedly. Yunsu quickly rushed to the Nanwei Street police station. She calmed down and walked in. It was not convenient for Qin Cheng to go in, so he waited outside. Hello, is Yun Daejin here? Yunsu asked the police officer who answered the door. The male police officer glanced at her and said, Who are you? I am his daughter. What happened to him? Why are you here without notifying your family? Go back and wait for news, the police officer said casually. Yunsu's face darkened and he was about to have a seizure. I am Mr. Yun Daejin's lawyer. This is my lawyer's certificate. I have the right to ask about my client's situation. In addition, Mr. Yun Daejin's situation is only within the civil scope, and his family members have the right to ask. A man in a suit and leather shoes stood behind Yunsu. His voice was clear and resonant. Yunsu knew that it was the lawyer Sulin had invited. The police officer took his lawyer's card and saw that Fu Qingting was really a lawyer. Why did this name sound familiar? Now that the lawyer is here, he can no longer just deal with it casually. Waiting, the police officer walked into the interview room inside. After a while, he came out and said, Go in. Yunsu hurriedly walked in. In the inquiry room, people on both sides sat opposite each other. His father's face was full of anger, and Qing Yu's face was stained with tears. Half of his face was red and swollen, with faint fingerprints. Yunsu closed his eyes, then opened them again, and a terrifying murderous intent burst out of his eyes. Who did it? She looked at the three people sitting opposite and her tone was cold and biting. I accidentally hit her, what about it? She can't even hold a plate steadily. The man in the jacket in the middle had bruises on the corners of his mouth and said nonchalantly, She's just a little girl, is it possible that she's still afraid of her? Yunsu walked up to him in two steps, raised and lowered his hand, and slapped him in the face with a crackling sound. The force was so strong that the hearts of everyone present skipped a beat. The man in the jacket staggered after being slapped on the ground. He moved his mouth a few times and spit out a tooth. What the hell? The man in the jacket stood up straight and wanted to fight back, and the other two men also stood up. What are you doing? What are you doing? Do you know where this place is? You dare to beat people in front of the police? The policeman sitting in the middle asking questions reacted and shouted to stop. I wasn't careful, what happened? Who told him not to say a word? Yun Sujong, the man in the jacket, returned the words to him. Fu Qingting took a step forward and said, My client is under the age of 18 and is a minor. The young man was a little impulsive. He can compensate this gentleman for his teeth. The man in the jacket looked at his smile and wanted to punch him in the face. Thinking of the current scene, he held back. He exchanged glances with one of the policemen without any trace, and just happened to fall into Yunsu's eyes. Her eyes fainted. Oh, no. She is a minor, but her dad is not, right? What about his father beating me? And what about the fact that I ate rat feces in their store? Let me tell you, this matter is never over, the man in the jacket sneered. He said he was confident. Rat shit? How is this possible? Yunsu looked at her father, who smiled bitterly and shook his head. I am Mr. Yoon Daejin's lawyer. I have the right to know about my client's situation, Fu Qingting said. The police showed them the interviews recorded by both parties. The man in the jacket is named Lin Tian, and the other two are his friends, Chiu Xiaoguang and Zhang Peng. It turned out that in the morning when Yoon Daejin finished selling the braised food and was about to close the shop to watch the Yunsu game, these three customers came to the store and had already sat down. Yoon Daejin could not turn away the customers. Lin Tian and the others ordered 3 portions of braised pork rice. After Ching Yu served the rice, he went to the kitchen to clean up with Yoon Daejin. After a while, she heard shouting outside. When she went out to take a look, Lin Tian pointed at the braised pork rice and yelled, "What kind of store do you open? There is rat droppings in the food." "No way. We all use fresh ingredients and are very hygienic." Ching Yu didn't believe it. "Look by yourself." Ching Yu took a closer look and saw that there was indeed a black rat droppings inside the tempting braised pork. She also panicked and didn't know what to do. She quickly apologized, I'm sorry, I'll give you another one." "Exchange one? How can it be such an easy thing? You have to pay for it? Who knows if something goes wrong with the food? Are you responsible? Otherwise, I will call and report your store." Lin Tian took her hand and looked at Ching Yu. "The beautiful face makes me feel a little itchy." "Ah," Ching Yu subconsciously shook off his hand and accidentally scratched him with her nails. Lin Tian slapped her in the face with his backhand, "Shameless." Yoon Daejin heard the commotion and walked out of the kitchen. He saw Ching Yu covering his face and became angry. He pulled Ching Yu behind him and said, "What are you doing? Are you the boss? You don't care if there is rat droppings in your store? How is it possible, rat shit?" Yoon Daejin immediately retorted, "He had cleaned all the ingredients in the store, how could there be mouse droppings? The evidence is here for you to see for yourself." Lin Tian was impatient. Yoon Daejin looked at the plate and said, "That's not the reason for you to hit people. Can't you just say something nice?" "No. She even scratched me." Lin Tian pointed to a slightly invisible scratch on his face, not even breaking the skin. Ching Yu was sobbing softly behind him. Yoon Daejin was furious and punched the unsightly face. "How dare you hit me? Come on." Lin Tianmeng took a second, then slapped the table and stood up. Ching Yu screamed, and the 4 of them got into a melee. Lin Tian and others were very cunning, targeting the thicker parts of the body to hit them. It hurt and left no trace. Therefore, although they looked injured on their faces, they were actually hit. Not worth mentioning at all. When they came to the police station, both sides insisted on their own opinions. Yoon Daejin insisted that his food was fine and there could be no mouse droppings. However, when the police arrived at the scene and collected evidence, the faces of Lin Tian and the other 3 were bright red again, and the police almost believed Lin Tian overwhelmingly. After reading the confession, Yunsu and Fu Qingting looked at each other and understood that their store had been tricked. Now that there is physical evidence, Yoon Daejin beats someone again. If he cannot prove his innocence, then not only will he be fined, he may face detention, but Yash will also be suspended for rectification. This matter is already very clear. We will temporarily detain Yoon Daejin here. You can go back first, a policeman said, wanting to put the matter to rest. Let's see who dares. Yunsu's eyes showed coldness, and everyone was shocked by her overwhelming aura. "What are you doing?" a voice came from the door. End of this chapter. After Rebirth, boss, she is beautiful and sassy. Author, beautiful. Chapter 50. Chapter 50. All parties moved together. Everyone looked back and saw two men walking in. One was an elite-looking young man wearing a shirt and trousers and carrying a briefcase, and the other was a slightly rich middle-aged man wearing a police uniform. "Long Bureau, why are you here?" "This is just a small case, I can handle it." A policeman came up to him with a smile on his face. "Shut up," Long Changzheng of the Nanwei Street Public Security Bureau glared at him, and then there was a smile on his face again. "Secretary Liu, please come in." The face changes so quickly that it's astonishing. "I am Long Changzheng from the Nanwei Street Public Security Bureau." He introduced himself to everyone first, and then looked at Yunsu and others. Lawyer Fu Qingting stepped forward and handed over his business card. Mingyang Law Firm. Fu Qingting sounded a bit familiar. Long Changzheng thought about it for a moment, his pupils shrank. Fu Qingting. Isn't he the victorious general in the legal world, the one who never failed in a lawsuit? Why is he here? "Xiaogu, tell me, what's going on?" Long Changzheng couldn't care less about the questions in his heart. The most important thing now was to find out what happened. He pointed to another policeman and said. Gu Pingsheng, who was suddenly called upon, briefly explained the matter and showed the transcript to Long Changzheng. Long Changzheng finished flipping through it in twos and twos, and saw the trick in it, and handed it to Secretary Liu next to him with a respectful expression. God knows how panicked he felt when he saw Secretary Liu of the Municipal Party Committee appearing in the bureau. Secretary Liu was not a very high-ranking person, but he was close to Secretary Lian. So many big shots were involved in such a small civil case. What is the origin of the family? Duan Hai on the side felt his heart skip a beat. Who is this Secretary Liu? Why is Long Bureau so respectful to him? He and Lin Tian looked at each other. Bad. Are you here to stand up for this family? Just when everyone was thinking in different ways, dong dong dong. There was a knock on the door. Monitoring. Where did the monitoring come from? The various approvals at the institute are more cautious and have not been completed until now. Ning Ziwen sent Yang Xiao and his people to Lanqing to conduct research with Yunsu. As soon as he arrived in Lanqing, he learned about Yunsu's current situation and worked non-stop. Come over here. Long Changzhen's expression immediately changed. What? I'm tired after seeing you guys acting here for a long time. I just need to check the surveillance to see what's going on. The police officer who received the call from outside came in and whispered a few words to Long Changzheng. Long Bureau, someone is coming from the capital. Yes, I will report to you today. Lin Tian's face changed drastically. They obviously went there after they had stepped on the ground, so how could there be surveillance? Duan Hai was also puzzled. They had seen it at the scene and there were no cameras at all. Yun Daijin also looked confused. Susu, when did you install surveillance? Why didn't I know? If he knew that Yunsu had installed surveillance, what nonsense would he talk to them? Yun Daijin was confused by the series of people. Why do so many big shots know Susu? What did she do behind his back? More and more people are coming, and Lin Tian is getting more and more panicked. He knows that he may have kicked the iron plate today, but now they have been forced to go up Liangshan. There is no other way but to go to the dark side. Anyway, they also have no evidence to prove their innocence. You're talking nonsense. There will never be rat droppings in our food. Yun Daijin didn't care about anything else and subconsciously retorted, his face red with anger. Miss Yun, do you have anything to say? Secretary Liu asked Yunsu with a very respectful tone. Long Changzheng was shocked. It turned out that Secretary Liu was also here for this girl. Then he put his legs together and bowed his head slightly to Yunsu. Miss Yun, Yang Xiao is reporting to you. Yunsu looked at this self-directed and self-acted farce and sneered. He looked at Yunsu with horrified eyes. Who is this girl? Because she actually alarmed so many people. Fu Qingting, who has never failed in the legal profession, the first secretary of the city's senior officials, and even people from the capital came here for her. This kind of personal connections is too scary. The matter is already very clear. How do you still investigate? Lin Tian decided to strike preemptively and not give them a chance to think. Enter. Yunsu also guessed in his heart that the reason why Yang Xiao came here and showed his identity in a big way must be from Ning Ziwen, just to show his goodwill to her, and she accepted the favor. Before he could go out to greet him, the person who came had already come in. Although he was wearing regular clothes, he had a straight figure. He took out his ID and gave it to Long Changzhen. Long Changzhen's face changed drastically. How could it be possible? Are you sent from Director Ning? The current situation is that a scholar encounters a soldier, and it is hard to explain why. Lin Tian Yuxi, is this girl trying to deceive them? I installed it before, but I forgot to tell you. Of course Yunsu didn't say that. The cameras she installed were all made by herself. They were very small and difficult to detect with the naked eye, and there were none on the market. Please find me a computer, Yunsu said politely to Gu Pingsheng. Okay, Gu Pingsheng also saw the development of the situation, and did not dare to neglect, and went out immediately. After a while, he came in with a computer from the technology department and handed it to Yunsu. In front of everyone, Yunsu turned on the computer and fluttered his fingers. After a few commands, the screen displayed on the computer changed and the scene in the Yash store appeared. The scene was messy, which showed how fierce the previous fight was. Long Changzhen was secretly shocked. He had been engaged in criminal investigation for many years. He could tell at a glance that Yunsu had used the bureau's computer to directly hack into her own computer. All computers in the bureau were encrypted. Cracked within minutes. It's over, it's all over. Lin Tian's hands were shaking, and the other two followers were also visibly panicking. There was actually surveillance. Yunsu rewinds the surveillance video for a few hours, and sure enough, after seeing Qingyu enter the kitchen after finishing the dishes, Lin Tian took a few bites, took out a paper bag from the bag, and shook the contents on the rice. Inside. The picture is very clear, everything is clear and cannot be denied. Okay, you dare to beat people for extortion, Xiaogu, handcuff them all. Long Changzhen was furious. Lin Tian instantly collapsed to the ground, and Gu Pingsheng stepped forward and cuffed the three of them. Save me, Lin Tian looked at Duanhai with pleading eyes, and Duanhai quickly looked away. Long Bureau, please check this person again. I suspect they know each other. The branch is still some distance away from our store. It only took 5 minutes from calling the police to dispatching the police. It seems that they have been waiting to come to our door for a long time. And he looked directly at the plate on the table as soon as he entered, which is too strange. Yunsu pointed at Duanhai and said to Long Changzhen, what was displayed on the computer was the scene of Duanhai entering. What are you talking about? I don't understand, Longju, trust me, don't listen to her nonsense. Duanhai hurriedly distanced himself. Also, let's check the people behind them. It's only been open for more than a week. How could they target our store for no reason? Yunsu added that she actually had someone to suspect, but she couldn't say it clearly. Long Changzhen frowned. Miss Yun, don't worry, I will definitely find out the truth of the matter and give you an explanation. He felt like crying but had no tears in his heart, but for the sake of these giant Buddhas, he didn't dare not check it out. Then thank you for your hard work. I will report the matter to Secretary Lian truthfully, Secretary Lu said. Even the secretary has to pay personal attention to the progress of this matter? Long Changzhen quickly nodded in agreement. If there's nothing else to do, we'll leave first. Yunsu and his party left the police station. Secretary Lu, thank you for making the trip in person. Please also thank Uncle Lian and me, and we will visit you another day. Okay, Miss Su, I'll leave first. Secretary Lu nodded with a smile and left in the car. Fu Qingting also said goodbye to her. Thank you too, Lawyer Fu. Being entrusted by others, doing things that are loyal to others. He was entrusted by Qin Xiao. Solin directly reported Yunsu's affairs to Qin Xiao, who asked him to come. After leaving, he called Qin Xiao and said, "Fifth Master, the matter is done. Miss Yun took care of it by herself, and I didn't even use it. I know she can solve it. I just let you go to fill the scene." Qin Xiao looked like he already understood. Fu Qingting couldn't laugh or cry, he actually still had a day to be a decoration. You go and settle down first. I'll come back to you after I finish the work here, Yunsu said to Yang Xiao. Yes, Yang Xiao got into the car and left. Yunsu looked at Yun Daijin and Qingyu, who were already dumbfounded. Dad, Qing, let's go back first. Ah, okay. Yun Daijin and Qingyu would just follow behind in a daze. End of this chapter.